Hey, this is Tom Kundert from Portugal.net and you're listening to the Seleção podcast.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários, Simão a tentar oferecer o golo a Figo e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa já acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira golo! 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 Cristiano Ronaldo, vai embora Cristiano Ronaldo, mete, bateu, golo! Chuta! Gol!
And we welcome you to episode number 55 of the Seleção podcast. I am your host, Danny Pinto. We are, of course, great partners with Portugal.net and loving the relationship we continue to have with Tom Kundert and his team. And we have reached a pivotal point in not only qualifying for the World Cup, but in the future of this national team as we presently have it. And we will get it started right here in previewing the most important match in my memory, in terms of what it could mean for the history and the future of this national team. And we do so by bringing in Alex Barker here. Alex is a European football journalist. You've seen his work in Get French Football Now, and also as a contributor to Breaking the Lines over with Zach Lowy and his team as well. And he's kind enough to give us a bit of the Turkish perspective and what Seleção fans can look forward to in the opponent that we have Thursday at the Dragão. So, Alex, Danny Pinto here in the States. Appreciate your time, sir. How you doing?
Doing really good, thank you. That was a lovely intro for myself. I feel a bit flattered coming on people's podcasts, and they introduced me quite nicely. Thanks for that.
Well, I mean, as the Euro expert, I mean, I guess you kind of have to live up to that that intro, I guess. But
it's used more of a stick to beat me with now. Anytime anything goes wrong, Euro quotes expert over here.
Well, listen, you're not the Euro perfectionist; you're the Euro expert. So these are your opinions and your opinions alone, and we appreciate your time on episode 55 here of the Seleção podcast. So let's get right into it. Fernando Santos is on very shaky ground. Obviously, he called his roster on Thursday with some surprises on at a few key areas. Most notably, I think the one that stands out for me is José Sá not even getting called up as one of the three keepers. I could see already with your expert satire laugh there. What did you think of the roster that Fernando Santos has called up? And how about some of the omissions that I feel that are kind of glaring, especially that José Sá one? What's your take on the roster as we go into Thursday's game?
I haven't got it in front of me, so you have to talk me through more of it, but I go off memory. But the Sá one is incredible. I can't believe that. I mean, I know Rui Patricio is still backed by so many Portugal fans, but my opinion is just that I think for his age, he's doing so well. Which sounds like an insult, but I don't mean it as one. He's doing pretty well as he is. But I was literally just watching Roma via Lazio, and there was such a tame Luis Alberto shot that when he's directional, it was so near him, and but he made it look so hard to save. So I just look at him now and I think you're in the past pretty much. I think you're waning down. What is the harm in bringing up José Sá, who's got two things: one, good ability, and what you want in a keeper is confidence. And I don't have you got a keeper that's more confident than José Sá? I don't think so.
Yeah, the other keepers that were called up were Diogo Costa and then obviously Anthony Lopes. Diogo Costa, I think, has a great claim to being on the roster. He's been the Portuguese keeper of the month, playing for Porto. numerous times. And, Anthony Lopes still doing well at Lyon. They're not world beaters at the moment. But, I don't think. I think your head would tell you that you just want to take the guys who are in form, especially at such a critical time when it's the ability to, or the opportunity, I should say, to finally punch your ticket to the World Cup or not. He has been such a stellar representative for this national team. Has Patricio, we call him Saint Patrice, Saint Patrice, because of the final in 2016, but as I think a lot of fans on the Portuguese side have kind of shown, is that we are grateful, but we are also ready to take that next step if the next step is, saying goodbye to a player who may not be in form. And José Sá has been arguably, if not the best keeper in the Premier League, one of the best. I would say top 3. I think you make a very, very safe argument there. And in arguably the best league in the world, how you don't take a keeper who has experience in your national side, not a lot, but he's been on numerous call-ups, but to kind of just start making that next step, I think is one of the biggest head scratchers for this national team so far, or with this call-up heading into these potentially 2 important matches for the national team.
Yeah, I've refreshed myself a bit. It's maybe remember the point I was going to make. Since Portugal kind of, they've actually done a similar thing to Turkey. What they've done recently seems to be, and Belgium as well. The 3 big national teams I've seen have they've selected inwards, which is quite interesting because I think it's tempting to just pick your best players no matter what. And we might pick Jose Sá, but I was looking at the Portugal. I'm just now got Diogo Costa in there from Porto, right? Inacio from Sporting, Nunes from Sporting, and Turkey have done a similar thing over a lot since their new managers coming in, which we'll talk about, where they've been playing a lot more players who are playing in the Turkish Super League. And the other players are still getting called up, like Cengiz Ünder and Soyuncu, etc., but they're not necessarily playing. And Belgium have done a similar thing as well. So that's quite an interesting trend to comment on.
Well, let's go ahead and focus on that Turkish side as we're talking to Alex Barker here on episode number 55 of the Seleção podcast. He's going to give us a bit of a preview of what the Seleção can expect from a Turkish side, Alex, that up until the last match day in their group, they had a chance to win the group. They were behind, I think, by 2 points to the Netherlands heading into the final match day. Obviously, needed a victory and then a Netherlands defeat, but that did not happen. They are in the playoff, just like Portugal is, just like Italy is, and North Macedonia in this 4-team group. But in talking with you a few times on other podcasts, you are very bullish on this Turkish side. The Euros were not what you expected for Turkey, but they do have a lot of talent on this Turkish side. And what kind of what kind of team is coming to Porto on Thursday to take on the Seleção, and what are the areas that you think that they can maybe kind of take advantage of this Portuguese side?
Okay, so I think this Turkey team, it'd be tempted to say, that they've turned everything around from the Euros. It's a big revolution. I find it more interesting in that there hasn't been so much. I mean, the only way we could really talk you through it and the squad is going all the way back. So, yes, people like me, morons like me, were bullish on Turkey going into Euro 2020. But
experts like you,
experts, of course. But there were fair groundings. There was a reason why there were mainstream journalists writing about Turkey and wondering, could this thing go far? Because they had a very good qualifying campaign. They topped their group. They had a very good defensive record. They only really fell apart at the Euros, and the Euros was such a small sample size. Only 3 games for them, and Italy, Wales, Switzerland. No doubts they were the worst team at the tournament by far. They were horrible to watch, but this wasn't a team who were down in the pits at the end of like an international cycle, big rejig needed and everything. In fact, they stuck with their manager, Sinol Gunesh, up until, I think it was in September. They played 2 games in World Cup qualifying and they lost 6-1 to the Netherlands. then they brought in a new manager called Stefan Kunst, who's been a name you should carefully pronounce, by the way, been
absolutely
with Mr. Kunz has been with German youth sides. He's reached 3, I think, under 21 German national championship, German European championships. So he's been working in that setup. He's a former German international, and he's played in Turkey as a player. And he was also approached by Bundesliga sides. So this is slightly more of an upcoming coach. He took a big job in September, and I think he is pretty much unbeaten. He's only really had one major test in my book, the 1-1 draw with Norway in World Cup qualifying, and that was his first game, which is fair. But to go and sort of the personnel side and the tactical side, really, might talk a bit more. But Turkey in the Euros, in their undoing was they played like a 4-3-3, but with one DM, and it meant that they were just got at in transition so easily. All Kunst has really done is kind of sort of swapped some players around. I've mentioned, like he's swapped out some Turkish Super League players in for maybe more established players like Soyuncu, and made it a 4-2-3-1 and put a bit more of a defensive solidity in midfield. That's really the only thing that's majorly changed. You're kind of expecting the similar sort of Turkey side, and a team that still has players. I mean, the ones that have been called up on my right side, we've got Demiral at the back. Zeki Çelik from Lille's had a pretty good season. Enezu now at Getafe, who's got 14 goals this season in La Liga. Very good. Burak Yilmaz, of course, who we might talk about a bit more. Yusuf Yazici, Çalhanoğlu as well, the big one. And Under, who's had a great season at Marseille. So there are definitely players that could damage this Portugal side in this team.
Yeah, and let's talk about, you mentioned Burak Yilmaz. He led the team in scoring during World Cup qualifying. He had 5. The Turkish side in 10 games in qualifying scored 27 goals, which I mean is a great output in qualifying. But the thing that in researching them a little bit that I kind of took a step back and thought that this might be an issue for Portugal is, Yilmaz had 5. They had 3 players with 3 goals, and then they had 4 players with 2 goals. So they're not dependent on just 1 or 2 guys or just the striker like so many teams. And you can argue Portugal is one of those teams as well, to get goals and to get output from on the attacking side. So that's one thing that kind of stood out for me in researching a little bit what Turkey can bring. But what's your take on how they attack and how they could attack this Portugal defense?
So I think in these one-off games, this is the best sort of place for Yilmaz to shine. And what we might see is a little bit more aggression from the front. And they previously did manage to do this in the last Euros qualifying. I think it was when World Cup qualifying played the Netherlands, and they really pinned them back. It was fascinating to watch them press really high. And Yilmaz recently played for Lille against Chelsea, and he successfully managed to do this as well, albeit doing it for the first 25 minutes and taking sort of 10-minute breaks, really. So it's like you might sort of see that aspect. I think what's quite eye-catching about the attack, though, depending on who does play, because it's been shifted around a little bit, and Norway are the closest team we've seen to Portugal's level, so we don't know exactly how conservative Kunst will set up. But you've got a lot of creative players who are in good form. I think Under's a very dangerous player at the moment. He's gone a little colder at Marseille recently, but he's kind of shown evidence of being quite both-footed, like being able to take any player on the inside or the outside. And he's had a few goals this season just cutting in and shooting. That's, I found in Liga and quite dangerous. Yazici will be an interesting one as well. He's just moved from Lille to CSKA Moscow, which is a move you might be regretting. But Yazici, he played his debut recently. He did score straight away. He's flowing with confidence. He's another one who's it's just one of those players who's very well technically rounded. He's not great at particularly anything, but he's good at most things. And he's another one you kind of just don't really want to give space in and around the box because he could bury a shot. So I think what you should expect is quite a bit of technical ability, maybe a bit of aggression, but possible times and places in the defense maybe where you can exploit them.
So you look at the way Turkey could approach this Portuguese side, and we're talking with Alex Barker here of the Euro expert here on episode number 55 of the Seleção podcast. Alex, of course, is a European football journalist working for GFFN and breaking the lines amongst other places. But I don't want it to be all doom and gloom here on the Portugal side, because it does feel like there's a negative vibe to this national team at the moment, because they're in the playoff. They shouldn't be in the playoff. A lot of people think. Obviously, a lot of the blame is right now being thrown at the feet of Fernando Santos, and I completely understand it, and I will shovel as much of blame to him as I can. But there is the possibility that this team still wins, beats Turkey, and still beats either Italy and then North Macedonia, and gets to the World Cup. So I want to take a positive approach from you, or get a positive outlook from you in terms of what Portugal can do in terms of how Turkey sets up defensively, and what the Seleção can do and could possibly do against that Turkish back line.
So it's a good question. I think I've got a clear answer straight away. I mean, we should say as well, tactically, they're not going to be able to do too much sort of advance because it's an international team, but really you sort of see them sit back into more of a deep to mid block, four at the back, and four midfielders dropping in. But across the defence, you look at the right hand side, you've got Zeki Çelikler, who's used to playing against high level opposition, especially speedy and physical players. So probably the most suited there. And at the back, you still have Demiral most likely starting, playing. I still think at Juventus at the moment. I think he's had his injury issues, but we see it could be top quality. The issue really, I think, is possibly at left back and maybe left centre back. You've got Kana Erkin and is Serdar Aziz there, and they're two Turkish league players. I think it was Erkin in the Euros. I wasn't particularly impressed by, and the Turkish Super League as well. It's hard to comment on it because I've not been. You're going to be different to me, Danny. Over in Europe at the moment, or in the UK at least, we literally cannot watch even highlights unless we're going to find illegal.
Yeah, I read
places.
that a couple of days ago. It's like you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, so it's like I imagine if you guys watch Premier League, you probably have ESPN, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like, imagine if ESPN was Europe's broadcast of Turkish football, but ESPN was blocked in the UK, and no one else had rights to Turkish football. So I'm going off things like legally I've seen and bits from the past as well. And and the Turkish Super League basically isn't the highest standard. It's a very slow league, so I think you can be very caught out by some top level opposition, and that's why we sort of targeting that left hand side. And also, like I said, we haven't seen them at the toughest opposition. I think they were quite good against Gibraltar and Montenegro when they won 2-1. But in the Euros, the midfield and front unit were guilty of slacking and not getting back. And maybe Kuntz, who's had quite a different managerial career than Gunes, who was quite an old sort of, a bit more like arm around the shoulder, guarding it, like Ancelotti style, where for Kuntz seems has a bit more of a philosophy. Maybe he's not going to let that happen, but in the Euros, there were big spaces opening up, and there was a lot of time and space for teams to counter-attack them. So that's something else I think Portugal could probably exploit.
Yeah, counterattacking is a big, a big piece of the formula, or it has been at least with this national team under Fernando Santos. You mentioned, Alex, that Turkey made a change at the managerial position, and it's kind of swayed things around in a positive way for this Turkish side. They have the opportunity of one of four teams in this group to get to the World Cup. I think a lot of Portuguese fans, myself included, have been asking for a change at the managerial spot for this national team for a few years now. And one of the things that I've mentioned before on this podcast is that the equity of 2016, the equity of 2016 is gone in terms of Fernand Sanch, and and something that I've heard recently, and it wasn't even attributed to Fernand Sanch, but I kind of I've used it in conversations with friends of mine and other folks, is that if a hero stays long enough, he can sometimes become the villain. And what is happening to Fernand Sanch, especially if this team does not make it to the World Cup, is that I don't think his time here is going to be looked at as positively as it could have been, given how it really started by saving this team from what was an awful kind of environment towards the end of Paul Bento's reign, coming in 2014, getting this team to the European Championship and winning it in 2016. That's something we'll always be grateful for. But you don't have a great 2018 in the World Cup. You finished second twice in consecutive qualifying groups. And these qualifying groups have been, on paper, very manageable to win in terms of the quality that this team has. My long-winded soliloquy here is just to ask you, someone who's not Portuguese, someone who isn't a Portugal supporter, what is I guess the rest of the world of football, how do they perceive Fernand Sanch, and how do they perceive this Portuguese team in terms of the predicament that they have themselves in right now?
It seems the exact same as Joachim Low at Germany, where you've got someone who's bought themselves so much credit and then done almost nothing with it, and it just feels like a ticking time bomb of when are they going to give an excuse big enough for us to fire him? And like that's the exact same thing with Low. I think of Joachim Low now, and I don't think of the guy who won the 2014 World Cup. I think of the guy who bombed the 2018 one, the guy who was firing players off, like saying to Hummels and Muller, "You're out of the team now." Then with a few months after the Euro, saying, "Actually, you should come back because we're so bad." That's the sort of vibe I'm getting from Fernando Santos or Santos. Is it?
It depends on where you are in the world and how you speak Portuguese. Santos is fine.
Fernando Santos, we'll call him that because I'm British and we pronounce names in a British way. Yeah, for him as well, I think his issue is in the play style, right? Like, this is the thing, especially in the modern age, and it's a thing that Mourinho and another Portuguese man, Nuno, has fallen victim to recently, where if you win at all costs, if that's your game plan, you're not going to play attractive football. You're going to sort of grind out wins. You better make sure you grind out wins. Otherwise, you've got nothing left to be happy about. Like if Pep Guardiola, that's very, very big high standard, but if City lose a game of football, they're still probably going to be looked at and go, "Wow, they did this great thing and they're playing such a positive way." There's nothing fun about a Portugal team losing in the way that I've seen them play recently. I've not seen it as much as you, but the sort of dogged way. And I just think of, I think maybe this is the biggest thing. I think of Euro 2016, and I still think Portugal play like that, except their quality is now one of the best in Europe. Like you've had Ronaldo, it's still in good, strong years. You've got João Felix, got Diogo Jota, yeah, and you've got Bernardo Silva as well. Diaz, world-class players, but maybe a top-level manager who wants to dominate, that's the right way forward and not be stuck in the 2016 mindset, which is what it feels like from an outside point of view.
And honestly, it's a spot-on point of view because that's a lot of what we as fans of this national team are kind of feeling like, where it's like, it was a bend but don't break kind of approach. It was if we're getting the results, it don't matter if it's pretty, 3 points or 3 points. I get all that. The game that in the match that it turned it all upside down for us was the match against Germany in the Euros. Absolutely dominated from start to finish, and not really an answer, even though they opened up the scoring with Ronaldo getting that opening goal from Diogo Jota. Or do I have that backwards? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it just never felt like they were ever going to be able to stand up to that barrage of that German attack. And, people were calling for his job in the middle of the tournament because of that result. And obviously that would be a tough pill to swallow to make a change at the tournament. But then it's like, okay, we still have World Cup qualifying. Again, a very manageable group, yet you put all your eggs in your basket to play at home against Serbia, where a win gets you to the World Cup. And I hit this all with any people I talk with. That match at the Estádio da Luz at Benfica's stadium, that was the first sellout crowd since the pandemic that this national team had played in front of at home. And it had all the markings of, all right, we're going to do it. And it's going to be the struggle that it is, but we're going to save it to the final game, but we are going to get in. The game opens up with Renato Sanches getting that goal early on, and then it's just, let's sit back, no attack. We can hold at least one goal. And then, of course, Mitrovic with the second goal at the end sends the Portuguese national team to where they are now. And I would think at that point, you would say, enough's enough. But yet, here you are, and he's still the manager. And that's the thing that's just been driving us fans from Portugal crazy, is that it just seems that we're hanging on to something that is so far in the past in terms of how we played in 2016 to the players that we have now. And it's just not, and I'm not getting emotional. I just have something in my throat. I swear to God. It just seems like this federation is just hell bent on making it work with Fernand Santos right now, instead of trying to find the next guy to lead us into this next generation of talented players.
I was going to say, I think to look at it from a big picture thing, because I see a lot of parallels with this. I think it was sound weird, but I think the moment Fernando Santos was doomed was when he won the Euros, because you think about it, you can get away with playing that style of football, grind it out, low scoring, because you're underdogs and you haven't won. Like I can't think the last time Portugal had won a Euros or a World Cup. I'm not sure if you had. Definitely not a World Cup.
No, that was their first international trophy at the senior level. Yeah.
So it's like you can get away with grinding it out, because what if someone going to come along and say we should be winning this? You've not won anything before, so you've got an excuse to play that underdog football. It's the exact same thing we've had with England, and the moment Portugal won something, it's like a switch flipped, and now you have an excuse to be like, well, we should be winning this. We've got the players to win. We've won something before. Why can't we be more dominant? And in our country, this is where we're getting it with Gareth Southgate. I'm personally someone who's definitely flip-flops, but I'm quite firmly on the side of Southgate now. But it's like in the 2018 World Cup and the Euros, he played the exact same style of football. 2018 World Cup, lauded as a hero, naming like train stations after him, songs after him. He's an absolute god.
Was he not supposed to be knighted if they won the World Cup?
I think so, yeah. We were meant to have days off and everything. I mean, that would have been fair. But that he got to the semi-finals, right? And even after the semi-finals, he's great. He's a god. There are people saying now he should have won the Euros. He should be sacked. And it's purely because we've lived through so many decades of England. Can I swear?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
England are shit. We lose absolutely everything. Oh my God, we've got a World Cup semi-final. We're amazing. That means we should win the Euros. We haven't won the Euros. It's crap. Needs to get him out. And you've kind of got that same pattern with Portugal, I think. And Belgium. Roberto Martinez. Like, you get close to winning things. You've got these players. Oh, why are you not winning things now? You've not done good enough.
Yeah, and they've been ranked by FIFA at number 1 for years in terms of Belgium. Like, at least it's a long run for Belgium, and understandably so. Like, you see the talent that is on that team, but that team is, just to get off on a Belgium tangent, they're at, I would say, I think they have this World Cup left for this group of players to get something out of this generation that had been so lauded. But yeah, it's interesting to
the best
see.
way you can describe this Belgian team and how long they've got left and the generation they're playing and the players they're playing is Thomas Vermaelen is still getting selected. That's the best way you can sum it up.
Yeah, that Vermaelen, Alderweireld, and Vertonghen back three is something to behold. Still at this age, Alex, real quick before we let you go, we obviously want to and before we do that here, you can follow Alex on Twitter. You can see right on the scroll as I do this. I don't know what I'm doing, left to right, right.
I
to
love
left.
it. I love it.
He's at EuroExpert_. You have a newsletter that people can subscribe to as well. Tell us a little bit about how you became the Euro expert, obviously, and then how one can sign up for your newsletter and follow you on social media.
Well, as someone who watches a lot of Liga NOS, I feel like you'll likely answer. It's in the UK, we obviously got the Premier League, the best league in the world. But everyone seems to think every other league is rubbish and no one pays any attention to it. So Chelsea have got Porto, farmers. We'll swipe them aside. Rubbish. And I looked at that and thought, you know what? We don't cover European football enough in this country. We don't give it enough credit, and we just swipe it aside as if it's Sunday League. When actually it's at a very high level and it deserves the coverage. And even if you're an English fan who goes, I don't really care about that, you'll care about it when Bernardo Silva moves to Manchester City and you go, who's he? And I can sit there and tell you. And the newsletter, I'm glad you brought that up. That's all about it. You can subscribe to it. And this is probably the best for UK audiences, but it should work either way, wherever across the world you are. It acts as a TV guide for any game that's on TV, pretty much. So at all times, you can get it on Friday evening and say, oh, PSG play Monaco on Sunday. I might tune into that one. Look, Lazio beat Roma as well. That's in the evening. That'll be great. And the whole idea is to get you away from watching Watford beat Norwich and watch things that are a bit more exciting.
To all the Watford and Villa Portuguese fans,
all three of them.
Oh yeah, on both sides. We apologize for Alex's outburst there, but so I also see as we wrap up here, because we are recording on Sunday morning ish in California, and then we're getting to the evening here in the UK. You've got your Real Madrid jersey on, obviously. A bit of a big match, I would say, today as of the recording with Real Madrid and Barca. Barca playing quite well lately, and Real is always Real. What I guess give us your thoughts, even though your thought on this match will be not heard in real time, and it will be heard after the fact. So we'll see how big of an expert you will be as this episode is released on Monday. But what are your thoughts on the big Real Barca match coming up in just a few minutes here?
I'm gonna play it really safe and go 1-1 draw.
All right, get the hell out of here, Alex.
Listen, I'm an extremely boring man, Danny. I like to get predictions right, and if you're saying I'm going to be proven right or wrong, I have to go boring. But more expanded factors. But I'll actually come out and say I got Xavi completely wrong. I looked at him and said, Barcelona have done a Barcelona thing, getting in someone because he's a legend, and he's managed the best team in Qatar and won the best tournaments in Qatar. Big whoop. That says nothing of his ability. But credit to him, he's turned things around. And you watch Barcelona, they're genuinely fun to watch. And you can sort of see that positional play that people rave about, where it's very attractive on the eye. It's all easing up. And I've got a Real Madrid shirt on. The real reason is because I traded a Chelsea shirt for it, because I don't want a Chelsea shirt. And I got this randomly, so I'm quite happy with it. I think it'd been when Ronaldo got about 70 goals, 11-12 it would be.
Yeah.
I could have knowledge there. But yeah, Real Madrid still doing very good, but they're not as good as last season. So they'll win the league this year. Maybe next year Barcelona could actually nick it from them.
Yeah, I mean, Barca's coming in hot, so it'll be great to see always that matchup. Alex, we can't thank you enough for joining us here on episode number 55 of the Seleção podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. And that will do it here for episode number 55 of the Seleção podcast. Again, make sure you follow Alex on Twitter at EuroExpert_. If you go to his Twitter account, which is that account there, make sure you click the link to subscribe to his newsletter so that you're not watching Watford v Aston Villa, because who wants to do that except for the 3 Portuguese listeners who we identified as those fans for that match. But again, you can follow us, the podcast here, on Twitter as well, at selecaopod, facebook.com/selecaopod, on Instagram at selecaopod, email the show selecaopod@gmail.com, and go to our website selecaopod.com. My name is Danny
everywhere.
Pinto. Oh yeah, everywhere and anywhere, even in Watford and in Villa. So So my name is Danny Pinto. I have been your host of episode 55 of the Seleção podcast, a very proud partner of Portugal.net. And as always, Força Portugal!